Yeah, hello all. It's been a good day today here, and today we are having one more session on the topic of business excellence and its role in improving the performance of organization. Today we have with us Mr. C.V. Subrahmanyam, Principal Business Excellence at Confederation of Indian Industry. Uh, he by qualification he is postgraduate in power system engineering and having more than 4.5 decades of hands-on experience in this industry. He has consulted business groups, large corporations, small and medium organizations in public and private sector in strategy formulation, business transformation, process management, lean manufacturing, and improvement and change management initiatives leading to significant bottom line and operational performance improvements. He has also trained top leaders and senior management personnel of leading business houses in business excellence and related topics. He was instrumental in initiating breakthrough improvements and leading organizations. He has given his expertise in the companies to name some of like Godrej, Bharat Electronics Limited, Bosch, etc. So welcome CBS sir. It's been our privilege to have you here on the Qualitypedia platform and to hear your insights as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will just share something about Qualitypedia, what Qualitypedia is all about, and then we will go to the next session of this interview. Yeah, Shruti. So I will just share my screen and then you can take up.
Yeah. First of all, Qualpedia, it is purely for a knowledge sharing platform. So why Qualpedia is in order to create value to all the communities, like the retailers, importers, students, like whoever is interested in quality and who's like want to know more about the quality conformity, maturity assessment, supply chain best practices. This will be acting as a knowledge sharing platform. So, like in this platform, we will be sharing the contents in the form of blogs, videos, carousels, and we are also collecting some of the interviews with the top experts. One of the expert now here is CBS sir. Likewise, like we are collecting most wherever possible. Like we are collecting more expert interviews, and we are posting it here. So yeah, this is just to create awareness to all the retailers, buyers, and all the student communities. So that's about the Qualpedia. Yes, Virendra, over to you.
So thank you, Steve. And we will continue with the further session and we would like to hear more from Mr. CBS. So, sir, with going ahead, we have formulated some of the questions for you. And we can start with like to understand the key challenges that industry is facing today, particularly given the MSME sector in India.
Thank you. Thank you, RSJ. Thank you, Virendra and Shruti, for having me on your knowledge sharing platform. I think the first question which we are discussing today is a very important point. When we talk about challenges that industry is facing today, I think there are global challenges and there are also challenges at a domestic level. So let me first outline the challenges that we are facing, which is triggered by the global events. The biggest and the most severe challenge, I think, is the geopolitical uncertainty. The environment in the world today, the conditions which are imposing itself on the countries because of developments in any part of the globe are today of a very severe intensity and magnitude, which is causing a lot of uncertainty in the lives of businesses, lives of people, and lives of the nations. Therefore, I would like to rank geopolitical uncertainty as the number one challenge. What is the second challenge today? In fact, the impact, in terms of the impact and in terms of the severity, I think the second challenge causes more damage, and we have been witnessing that for the last few days in our own place more, is relating to the climate change. Climate change, I think, will in days to come and years to come be one of the most important talking points. It could be the agenda in the board meetings. It could be the agenda in the policy framework discussions. It could be the agenda at international conventions, which it is already. But it will also start trickling down into individual lives, personal discussions, etc. If you were to take the last 1 month events which we all faced in India, the heat wave conditions, the unseasonal rains or uncertain weather conditions is all one manifestation of one of the biggest challenges, which is climate change. To summarize all of this, what I would say is that two challenges: number one, geopolitical uncertainty, and number two is the climate change. While these are global and this is industry agnostic, or even maybe agnostic across the nations, uh, it is the factor which I think the brunt of all these challenges is more severe on the MSMEs. And MSMEs, first and the foremost, is they do not have the wherewithal to withstand this challenge, and they do not have the kind of resources which it demands today to overcome that. So we talk about that maybe in a different level or a different context. But the answer to the first question which we are discussing today is the key challenges which industry and MSMEs are facing: geopolitical uncertainty and climate change.
So, given these challenges about the geopolitical or climate change, like how likely the impact of these challenges and key trends on the businesses, how these are going to impact?
I think again it's a very significant aspect which any business should know. It's not just the awareness about what are the names of the challenges or what are the challenges. More important for anybody or any business or enterprise to know is what would be the impact on his business. So I will take this question in two parts and respond to that separately. First, I'll start with challenges. What is the challenge which we talked about are two significant global challenges, which is the geopolitical uncertainty and the climate change. The impact would be manifold. The impact would be manifold on businesses across the world. But if I were to make it a little more specific, I think first and foremost, if you take the geopolitical uncertainty, it causes a lot of disruption to the demand. It can lead to demand destruction. It can lead to demand slump. It can lead to a lot of significant changes which may become the priority of any business to immediately act upon. And this comes with no notice or no timing. And therefore, the risk of getting disrupted by that is very severe. And unfortunately, because it's a interconnected and global world, any development happening in any part of the world, the ripple effect and the triggering effect is felt by all of us. So the first and foremost thing is that it causes an impact on the demand. Second, it causes also a demand on the supply. The supply is disrupted. What you need, you may not get at the time. Then what you need may not come at the right price. What you need may not come in the right levels of your requirement. So the second area where the impact of challenges triggered by the geopolitical uncertainty will be on the demand and supply. The second aspect is, and it is the most important for any business, which is on the cost. When you have the geopolitical uncertainty and disruptions to the supply chain, and the demand is also impacted, one of the important areas where the impact on cost would come is from the inputs which are typically used by businesses to create value and deliver to their customers. And some of the key inputs which go into making products which they want to offer to customers, the prices would start going up, and therefore they will be significantly impacted by the cost. The cost could be financial cost, the cost could be material cost, or also even, for example, cost relating to conversion, cost relating to even, for example, the people. The last element which is also important from a geopolitical uncertainty is it can lead to kind of disruption which you do not have any immediate solution. So the impact is that it may lead to a lot of risk to your business, and you may not have any factor which is within your controls to mitigate that. So demand, supply, cost, and then risk, which are typically the kind of impact which businesses and particularly MSMEs will be facing. Coming to the second point in the challenge, which is regarding the climate change. I think climate change would have larger impact. And what do you mean by larger impact? The larger impact is the businesses may find an impact of that intensity which is felt across all elements of the business model. More significantly will be on the cost side, but also the value side will get impacted because they may need to look at value from a different perspective, not purely from a price value to the customer or a quality value to the customer, but also the value to the other stakeholders, particularly society. And you may need to factor in additional costs, additional investments, additional actions, which will ensure the impact on the society is minimal, impact on the ecology and environment is minimal. So the climate change would lead to a lot of significant impact on the business model. The connected infrastructure is the first one regarding the financialization. And the second one is the formalization. So if I were to talk to you about the formalization, what would it mean? It would mean that a lot of the MSMEs were more into informal sectors because now they have to address the challenge of an integrated market, a unified market. And today the consumer has the choice of going to anybody in any part of the world for buying. The small MSMEs and particularly the retail segment, the trading segment, are those people who do not have the wherewithal or maybe find it difficult to invest to overcome this change, may have a lot of implications because of this. And today one of the trends which is seen is a lot of them are closing shops or becoming part of the formal economy. A formal economy would mean their cost structure gets altered. So one impact trend which we will need to monitor closely is the formalization part. The second one is financialization. Financialization is going to have a maybe possibly a different impact. Maybe intensity may be less, but that's where when you have a unified payment structure and the architecture, and consumer has many options to pay and many options to do trading and business. That would mean a lot of effort required on businesses to manage this cost because capital may become available from multiple sources now, and therefore it may drive the capital cost for many people. Consumer may be at a far more better position to do that. It may or may not bring down the capital cost to you, but you may have access to a lot of capital. But because of the recent increase in the inflation, which is another trend which you need to keep an eye, the cost of capital may start increasing, and that would mean only those companies with a pricing power would succeed. So the two trends which I would say which is going to be significant with a lot of impact on the MSMEs is the formalization of the Indian economy, and second one is the financialization.
Next thing, and so we would what looking at all this perspective, like what you suggest as the way forward for businesses, particularly the MSMEs, given the impact of these structural issues and the challenges that you just outlined for this sector.
Okay, looking at the structural issues, one is significant impact and change to the business models. Second is the challenges which I outlined, which are two from a global perspective. One is the geopolitical uncertainty and the climate change.
Yeah.
What is the way forward? In my view, the way forward is, if I were to put in one word, relook at the business models. That is one step which people need to do or businesses need to do. Second is to understand or start doing the thinking and working in a more agile manner. Because uncertainty would mean that response need to be far more quicker and far more adequate to the kind of intensity of the challenge, which would mean you will need to do thinking on your feet. It would mean maybe sometimes the crunch of your planning cycles, and maybe the introduction of more risk mitigation and the risk management kind of practices. It would mean a lot of changes to your manufacturing or the operational practices, because climate change related aspects demand you to do more on the impact which is likely to the environment and the ecology and the society around you, which would mean you will need to think on the systems and the processes side also. So if all of them put together, I would say maybe there are three important broad level steps which companies need to do. One is the leadership of the organization need to start thinking on their feet and doing planning in a more systematic manner, with a more short-term focus and short-term cycle as a lens. Second, they may need to relook or start evaluating their processes for their capability and maturity to manage these kind of impact triggered by the climate change, triggered by the uncertainty, triggered by the demand supply conditions. And also the other trend which I didn't talk about, but also which is a known fact and with large bearing, is on the technology, which would mean the level at which the capability of any organization's processes systems would have been, day by day they start declining in terms of their maturity and capability. So unless you are quick on your feet, you are fast and agile, what you were good yesterday may not be good today, and what you are good today may not be good in the evening. So therefore, your practices need to be quickly modified and quickly made more adaptive. So adaptability of your processes and systems must be the second point of agenda. First point of agenda is relook into your planning and involve the management more to have a more short-term focus but more agile, quick focus. The third point which I would like to say is you need to get your people to respond to the situations in a more dynamic manner. And they would need to be enabled. They would need to be enabled by tools. They would need to be enabled by technology. They need to be enabled by some best practices. So in short, I would say three broad steps: leadership involvement and relook at the planning cycle. Second is to relook into your systems and processes capability and start evaluating and redesigning them. Third is to use technology, use tools, and use maybe the best practices to enable people to respond fast and in a more agile manner.
So we move forward in this, again, like given the constraints and the details what you just outlined for businesses, again, like what would be your diagnosis on the impact of the MSMEs?
I think it's a vital question given the fact that the majority of Indian economy is triggered by MSMEs. They are the biggest employment generators. They are the biggest, maybe the contributors to the GDP, both on the service economy as well as the manufacturing side. So what would be my diagnosis? I would diagnose like this. A typical MSME in India is far more smaller than an MSME at a global level. An MSME in Europe, MSME in America, MSME in Japan will be much more larger than an MSME what we talk about typically in India. So I restrict myself to what a typical MSME in India is all about and what is the diagnosis about them. Okay. My reading of MSME is typically they are highly talented people. They are highly entrepreneurial. They are very competent and capable people who are doing a lot of good stuff for economy as well as for people. But there are some structural issues with respect to any MSME, and we are not blaming anybody, but that's how things evolved in MSME. What do I mean by these structural issues? Most of the MSMEs who got created in the early part of our movement to becoming a modern global economy was MSME who typically wanted to be an entrepreneur, who was working in a company earlier and he acquired some expertise in some area. So somebody would have got expertise in design, somebody would have got expertise in operations, somebody would have expertise in a particular manufacturing area, let us say in the welding shop or maybe in the machining shop or in the fabrication area. So they would have got typically some skills built by working in a particular company for some years. But he has a passion. He has a passion to have his own setup and learn or use whatever he learned. So he comes out and starts the business as an entrepreneur. When he starts a business, three things happen, which later on or today it has become slightly a big problem for him. Number one, and the most serious one, most important one is a typical Indian MSME is optimized around cost. What is the meaning by that? The entire approach of all decision making with respect to creating a setup and establishing his own company, the first and the prime condition is always the cost. So what does he do when he wants to set up a shop? He has to buy assets. So he buys assets which are the cheapest or which are most competitive prices by looking into many of them looking into maybe second-hand assets, but improving them, functionality being enhanced, and then he is making it maybe in workable condition, but at a far more lower price than what the market is today demanding. Second, he typically hires talent which is at a far more lower cost for him than what a good talent is available in the market by going to institutes or people from other institutes which are not the prime institutes in the radar of any company's recruitments. They go to the second rung, third rung, and then recruit talent. That talent comes at a lower cost to you because they will be less demanding. They are okay with maybe whatever you are offering them as pay because they are looking for employment and they are struggling for that. Third part of the thing is they would have gone for a cheaper option to set up the infrastructure. So they would have got a place on rent, or maybe they bought a land which is slightly on the hinterland, slightly interior, or maybe in crowded place, or you took a premises on rent which is with low rent as the criteria, and therefore you are constrained structurally for space, and you wouldn't have applied the best methods to create the inside operations. So your infrastructure is optimized on cost. Your processes are the people, the assets you are buying is optimized on cost, and also the people you are recruiting is optimized on cost. Then you do one more thing. In a typical MSME, they tend to buy, and it's not they alone. There are also larger companies who do that. Every buying or every sourcing, the prime consideration is the price at which the supplier is wanting to give you. So you negotiate and do the hard bargaining to bring down the prices. So sometimes in the bargain you trade off on quality, you trade off on the best capability, you trade off on the best matured processes which a supplier may have because you are asking for a lower cost. So your supplies, your assets, your infrastructure, and your people are ones which you would have maybe typically made decisions which are strongly pitched on the cost, and that would have itself created an enterprise which is suboptimal. Added to that is a dimension of your enterprise being suboptimal because you may not be investing so much because cost of capital for you is hurting, and you may not have invested in capability building or technology. So that accentuates the problem of your capability. Second structural issue for any MSME is the way it evolves around the production and supply and dispatch. So the core value creating activities which happens in MSME is supply, production, and dispatch. With a bit of maybe some area you have some focus on quality, etc. But otherwise, their core activity is only into this, and maybe one or two key support processes like your billing or invoicing or collection, etc. And therefore, what happens? These MSMEs typically would not have many key functions which are today a problem. Now, today very much a necessity. Number one, there is no HR. Second, there is no IT function. Third, there is no finance function. It is more an accounting function they have. Fourth, they do not have a very strong design development department. Fifth, they do not have a very strong business development or sales and marketing function. So they depend upon just the orders coming into them by the CEO reaching out to them. And therefore, there is no very well thought out sales and marketing or a BD setup. The third dimension of a structural issue for any enterprise is the way the company would have evolved, the management, and it is more typically a proprietor concern, where one man show, the CEO is running the show because he invested it. And it is natural, and we can't blame him for that. His main concern is the small amount he invested, and he doesn't want to lose money on that. So the entire working is created like on a centralized, what should I say, mode of working. All decision makings are centralized with the proprietor. So he doesn't want people to decide anything. People at the sourcing cannot decide the price, or cannot decide the supplier. Production people cannot decide what to produce or what to reject, what to accept. Dispatch cannot decide what to send, what to hold. Recruitment, they cannot decide whom to have, etc. Decision making is centralized. But when you want to grow, what happens is these structural deficiencies and the centralized decision making of any MSME starts hurting. Now, when you grow, you want people to take decisions on their own because the scale is larger now. But you yourself have not enabled that. You encourage people, and the culture is today strong where they do not take decisions. You have never empowered them. So therefore today, even if you want them, they are not in a position to take. And then the processes are not that matured, and day by day they become more weaker as the developments outside start becoming stronger. So these are some structural issues, and on these lines the MSMEs need to have a very holistic, a very comprehensive, a very long-term approach which is centered around ensuring that you are creating the necessary enablers for driving a very, very robust performance improvement.
Okay, so what would you suggest as some globally acceptable best practices that could be systematically applied by businesses, particularly again MSMEs, to improve their performance?
Yeah, having understood the problem, obviously the next question is what's the solution then?
Yeah.
So the solution is the companies need to think of slightly differently. See, one paradigm, one fundamental principle is generally the leadership of the MSMEs or the proprietor or the management of the MSMEs tend to think lower the cost, the profit will be better. And therefore, one of the things which they can see and which they can control is the check which they write or the online transfer that they do. And therefore, they are more focused on those elements which they have to pay. If you need to pay a supplier, you know how much is going out. You need to pay an employee, you know how much is going out. You need to pay for a dispatch, for a transport, you know how much is going out. So you are very focused on those elements of cost where you know what is going out, and then you tend to control it. But there are many other elements of the cost structure which is actually much more than what you are obviously seeing, which is the hidden cost. And in that one important paradigm which all CEOs, all businesses need to be very conscious of, and they need to very, very strongly imbibe that in their minds and enable people, drive people to be aware of that is, and I will repeat it very slowly, what the mind does not know, the eye does not see. So if the businesses and the people within a business do not know what is waste, they do not know what is the impact on the cost. So if you do not know what is the problem, if you do not know where your money is actually you are losing, or where are the profit pool leakages or the cesspools or the cost impactors, you do not know how to make your business better. So on this central principle, what are some best practices? Two. One is any company's leadership, whether it's a proprietor or a management, they will need to have their own diagnosis of their balance sheet or the financials. They will need to understand what is the last 3-year picture in terms of financial performance. They will need to understand, is the business having enough resilience? Can we sustain our performance and then plan to grow? So the action need to be two-pronged. First is to ensure you are having a good control management. There are maybe 3-4 important methodologies globally proven and globally available. You can begin a journey of TQM, which has a central principle called as a topic which is focused or makes people focus on waste, a concept called waste elimination or 3M, where 3M is M for Muda, M for Mura, M for Muri. And through that, you will need to make everybody, every person in your company be aware of where is the waste, where is the cost leakage happening, profit leakage happening. And for that, you will need to enable them by making them build or capability of having a Kaizen eye, an eye which is there to identify waste. Because the most difficult part is identifying waste. Elimination is much easier. If you know where is the waste and what is the waste, you can think of a solution. Second is you can adopt practices like TPM if you are a manufacturing company. If you are a service organization, you can adopt an approach of Lean or maybe Six Sigma, or maybe you can take a simple approach of using your ISO better by focusing on the processes. Along with that, using good tools to make your process visual. Second part of the approach which I would suggest to any MSMEs is if you are slightly bigger and you have the appetite and you have a bigger vision and a larger goal which you are pursuing, then I think you will need to take a holistic approach. You will need to take a holistic approach of maybe integrating many of the tools, many methodologies into one umbrella, and that umbrella could be the one which the management is using to drive improvement culture across the organization, and that would be possible by adopting any of the holistic, comprehensive organizational management frameworks, which are the business excellence frameworks, etc. So they will need to build awareness on these models. Though many people assume that business excellence is not for small companies, it's all more for large companies, etc. I would put it like this. Which entrepreneur or a CEO wouldn't want his business to excel? If you want to excel, then you need to know how. And how in these frameworks are applicable to any company of any size. It can be one-man company, it can be 10 lakh company workforce. Everywhere it's the same. So adopt any holistic, comprehensive, long-term approach by using any of these frameworks. You have principally three which are available. You have the EFQM model, you have the Baldrige model, and you have the Deming Price.
With this, we will go with the next question. And so, given all these solutions, again, like what would your recommendation be for an MSME to undertake a systematic performance improvement journey? And what are the key steps of such a journey?
There are two parts to this question. One is the recommendation. Second is the steps within that recommendation. The recommendation part of it we covered in the earlier response to your question in some parts. But I would like to put it like this. Any approach which a company takes as one part of recommendation is do not take a localized approach. If you improve one part of a system, the other part of the system becomes weaker. So we tend to normally start taking an approach of undertaking localized improvement. So any product has a problem, you start working on that. Some process has a problem, you start working on that. So you apply your root cause analysis and maybe the corrective and preventive action or 7 QC tools. So that's one way of doing it. Second is as a recommendation, the MSMEs should always have within their systems, and that's the reason why even if they look into ISO, the ISO also has one clause or any other system you will look into as a mandatory clause where it is asking you to establish a continuous improvement process. And unfortunately, that is the weakest part in any system, and many people have not leveraged that ISO system because they have a very weak continuous improvement process. It's a mandatory, in my view, it is a must. It's a mandatory process which need to be there in every business, every entrepreneur, every enterprise, where you will need to use a process to continuously make changes to your business and keeping it always at a level which is at par with today, and then have also plans to take it beyond that. So a continuous improvement journey is a very necessary requirement, and therefore make it an integral part. The third part is MSMEs need to be alert to and also be having a process to understand developments outside for two things. What is the the implications in terms of impact on your business, you need to monitor those developments outside. But more importantly, you also need to monitor developments, and you should have a knack for identifying good opportunities. It can't be that I rely upon whatever product I have today and the business I am in today to restrict yourself to say this will take me to whatever vision I have. It may not take. So you will need to keep constantly a lookout for where are the other opportunities emerging, what are the trends throwing up as some new opportunities, and for that you need to have a regular eye on them and build the capability to understand that. The fourth recommendation which I will make for any MSME is you will need to build a capability in your organization, and it's not MSME alone. For every company or any company, every CEO need to have two, what should I say, abilities. And both abilities put together, I would say the one of the parameters on which you must evaluate the CEO is how good is he in this particular aspect. And the aspect which I'm mentioning is how ambidextrous is a CEO. Ambidextrous, I mean having the ability to do two abilities, qualities you have in yourself, which will make you strong. Your both right hand and left hand are together working in tandem and sync, and you're able to do the effort or put the effort in a more, what should I say, concerted manner. What are the two abilities? One is you should have the ability to manage the today's requirements. Every business has its own targets which it has to achieve for today, maybe for the week, maybe for the month, maybe for the quarter, maybe for the year. So focus of the people need to be on the target achievement and performance, but they also need to prepare the organization for tomorrow. And by that I mean looking at opportunities, looking at what is the way things are going to impact us, what is the way I have to change, where are the changes required, and how do I transform myself. So he need to have one eye, like your two-eyed vision, one eye on today and one eye on the future. So these are the four recommendations I will make for any CEO, more particularly the MSME. Now coming to the steps. I would recommend 3 steps which the MSME need to undertake. First is have somebody as your mentor, guide, philosopher, who is willing to do it for a cause, and who is willing to do it for less commercial reasons, but more because he is a passion to help somebody, and he is known for that. He is some proven credibility behind that, and he is a good counselor. He is a good mentor. The CEOs need somebody to coach them, somebody to mentor them. So they need a coach mentorship. Have one. That's step number 1. Second is through the coach and mentorship, you get your business analysis done and current status evaluated to see what are some key gaps in your systems, in your people, in your processes, in your performance. Third is to prepare a roadmap using or selecting any particular approach. So if these 3 steps are there, then I think you are ready to begin a systematic performance improvement journey.
To go further, now knowing all those things like whatever recommendation steps you have given, how should a systematic performance improvement journey be undertaken, and how critical is role of leaders and people in such a journey?
Yeah, again, we have 2 parts in your question. Uh, how should we take the journey? And second is the role of leaders and people in that.
Yeah.
Now, I will take the second part of your question, answer what is the role of leaders and people in that. In MSME, if I were to talk in little more granular nature and specific manner, most of it are proprietary or small management teams and CEOs who are leading that, etc. Those people would need to firstly be very conscious. One of the critical success factors of any business is that nothing happens unless the CEO himself is the leading light. Why? Because first he needs to personally understand what is the effort required, what is the way to put that effort, what is the way to guide the people in putting that effort, and then what is the implications of that effort, and what would be the right manner in which that effort need to be actually put into action. So leadership role is vital, and there is no two ways about it. Second is, once the leader puts that effort, then what happens is the others have the confidence and the kind of strength to follow the leader, because generally we tend to be more finding it easy to follow than to lead. Therefore, if the leader does it, the others will be having confidence to follow. But they also look for an example. So the leader need to have certain qualities in him where the others look at him and start copying him, and therefore together the leader and the people are together able to put in the organization what I call it as a strong improvement culture, where the leader leads and the people follow to say what is the way we should be known by the outside world, what is that we are good at, what is the kind of behaviors and norms which people see in us, which together we can say is the collective culture of our organization, which is constantly focused on a very, what should I say, robust improvement program. And every employee in an organization, what's the role of people? People need to be converted into a unit, a unit which is focused completely on bringing change, driving improvement, and making the business fit, because they are the people on the ground. They are in touch with the things which happen on the ground. So they need to be converted into your let's say the ammunition which you want to use to get the shop floor organized, though the ammunition word is not maybe in the right context, but we want to convert them into a powerful unit where everybody is empowered with three things. He can identify waste, he can ensure safety, and he is having the ideas also on how to get it improved. So if these qualities are there in every worker, every person and every leader, collective that enterprise is having a very strong foundation for undertaking improvements. So the role is undoubtedly the most important, and both together need to work and together need to create a difference. The other aspect about the role of leaders and people is uh, all MSMEs and all companies are in the market, they are competing with their many other players who may be stronger than you. One important differentiator which can give you an advantage in the market is if you have a unique and a different culture, because culture is difficult to copy. Any methodology that you adopt, competition can easily copy that. It may be a matter of time. Somebody may take 1 month, somebody may take 6 months, but at the end of it, he does it and he will become equal to you. But what will take a longer time is having a culture which is there in your organization, which competition cannot easily copy. That's the role which the leaders need to play, not just giving suggestions, driving kaizens, making improvements, etc., but collectively create a culture which is difficult for your competitor to copy. Now, coming to the point regarding how should they undertake a journey, I think once you adopt and you make a decision regarding the framework and the methodology, then is best to get a resource who can help you. Get yourself trained first. Get to know what is the concept, what is the implications, and what is the cost benefit of that, or the positives and the negatives of that. After which, second, go to companies who have implemented that. Talk to people who have implemented that. See for yourself what has happened, what is the change, etc. Satisfy yourself that this is a good way to make a change. Third, you put in place, along with some guide who can help you, a roadmap. Now that roadmap may have many elements, but what I would say as a simpler point for any company to today make a change in the business is drive it through your strategy. Whatever strategy which the company has, small or big, has for meeting its targets or maybe making his business better, that strategy could be the means for undertaking all the change. And therefore, you need process for establishing your strategy, which is best practice in the world, which is very robust, which can give you more data-based insights, which can throw you a lot more opportunities, and understand what is the way I can make my business better. And in that strategic planning, you will need to build a lot of capabilities of maybe application and use of tools. So the entire 3 steps can be maybe in 3 parts. Create a strategy process, use good tools to build that. Second, create a process to execute your strategy. Third, create a system by which you are able to systematically measure and align people to your targets and metrics. So these 3 steps together would maybe holistically enable people to understand where are they required to go, what is the way to go, and what is the route we have taken, and in that what is the way I have to contribute. So the how part I will say in 3 parts. Number one of the how is put in place a strategy process. Number two is put in place a process to deploy that. Number three is put in place a process to measure the performance and progress which you're making on the strategy. But in that, there are some conditions. You will need to be focused on all the stakeholders. You need to be focused on your processes. You need to be focused on your resources, particularly technology.
What are the key outcomes of a systematic performance improvement journey? How to see, like, what are the outcomes?
Yeah, I think one is certainly entitled to ask this question, and that will be the big uppermost in the mind of anybody who is taking a decision. What do I gain by this? I would say first there are some intangibles, then I come to tangibles. The intangibles is your business will become sustainable, your business will become more resilient, your business will become more, what should I say, consistent in the output that you deliver. The people will be more aware and knowledgeable. The processes will be more consistent and more visible, more apparent to people what is that you are doing. If you are a manufacturing company, the shop floor and the places where you work will become more visible, more ownership of working will be taken up, and you have more data in front of all of us, which is about our performance, about our activities, and the way we are progressing. So these are some intangibles which I talked about. There could be many more which will come. So you may have a lot of change on the shop floor. So much so sometimes people say that the working place now is like hospital clean, and the outside is garden green. So that's the way we want to create a workflow which is more efficient, which is more safe, and which is more productive. That's the intangibles. But what are the tangible benefits? Tangible benefits is uh, given the condition that if your strategy is right, and for that your inputs were right, and for that you are able to identify the right kind of opportunities which are data driven and fact based. You understood the totality of the opportunity including the risk, and you were able to come out with the right kind of plan to seize that opportunity. Then I think you could see certainly improvement on the financials as well as the non-financials. What is the financials related change or the improvement we can see? In a generic level, top line, bottom line returns, all the three can change. But one of the points I can make here is benchmark which companies can take to say that their performance is much better. I think for any enterprise today, 3 most important business metrics I think are more relevant, more powerful, and maybe the smallest set which can very clearly tell in a with a lot of intensity and depth about the business. Metric number one is not just the sales today or the sales this year, but you should be looking at the sales compounding. What is the rate at which your revenues are compounding year on year? And there should be a trend of compounding of revenues. That means you are growing consistently. Second is the not just the profits, but more returns on the capital that you employ. And again, not a 1 year ROCE, but a ROCE which you are looking at in terms of the last few years and what the rate at which it is compounding. But the third and the most important metric which any business need to look for is not just the profit. At the end of it, many times on the books, profits look very rosy, but in reality, the business is not generating cash. One single factor which is very critical for any business is the amount of cash which it is generating. So the third metric I would say is the free cash flow. And in that, they can take a simple metric of what is my ROCE and what is my cost of capital. You remove cost of capital from the ROCE, you would be able to get your free cash flow. So that should also be growing. And in that, there is one small rider. When you have good free cash flow, you have the flexibility to invest. And in that, the paradigm, a good practice, the best way companies do is one part is certainly reimbursing all the owners the money which they have put, and that is very handsome, very hefty, and making him feel comfortable and feel very happy that I am earning enough money. And it also has a side effect. It will not tempt the or cause any wrong temptations for people to make money the other way. But the second part is more important. While whatever the promoters and owners are able to get the money, the second part which is more important is they also have enough money to reinvest and make the business grow. Because one important factor which you need to do is you need to invest in certain areas which can consistently and in a very gradual but significant manner create a competitive advantage to your business. It can be technology, it can be in the scale of operations, it can be in your people, it can be in the kind of culture that you have. But somewhere this money must go in to keep making the business better and better. So that is the metrics. But what is the typical levels to which people are performed? They have seen consistent minimum 3 year improvement in these, 3 year improvement in the sales, 3 year sales meeting the targets, or 3 year sales being the level which is better than the others. And it is also secular, maybe across the segments, etc. So financials are secular, financials are comparatively better, financials are meeting the desired levels, and financials are showing a continuous improvement. The non-financials, there are many metrics, but one important factor you can take is besides your parameters on PQC DSM, productivity, quality, cost, delivery, safety, and morale. I think you can take the other factor is with respect to the perceptions of your stakeholders. So the customer satisfaction levels will go up, your people satisfaction levels will go up, supplier satisfaction levels will go up, your partner satisfaction levels will go up, and your society satisfaction levels will also go up. Besides, the satisfaction levels of your business stakeholder and the governing stakeholder also going up. So this is a brief, but if you look into maybe metrics, every company was undertaken a journey may have his own unique metric on which it has improved. But this is the broader category under which their companies would have seen these kind of changes. But the rider is it doesn't come easily. You have to put in effort, and it has to be long term. Companies who have reached to this level would have taken, depending on the level at which they started, it would have taken upwards of 3 years. So it may be about 3 to 5 year journey or little more than that. But you need to be patient, you need to persevere, and you need to be at it while being conscious of the fact things are changing fast, and therefore you will need to have shorter cycles. So that's the summary and substance of what is the likely outcomes.
Given like all the focus areas and challenges and trends and impacts what we are seeing, the most the one of the what you can say the important but still sidelined parameter, like what is the role of quality in the systematic performance improvement in improvement journey that you have suggested? How you
I
see this?
think this is coming at the end, but as you rightly said, the most important. And I would like to present this by giving a preamble. What is the way quality need to be viewed in today's conditions, today's world? No longer today product quality is restricted to product quality. So therefore, the need for moving away from inspection to quality control to higher levels on the product side, we all understood. But the point it is not fully registered is in short, in any enterprise, quality need to be perceived at 3 levels, and all the 3 are necessary, and all the 3 are performed by different sets of people, and all the 3 are requiring different tools, and therefore the involvement of people will be at different levels, and you need to attend into all the 3 and create a holistic program. What are those 3 quality levels? Number one, you should have a good product quality. That means you should be strong in design, strong in making the right trade-offs, and the processor which will build that and bring a product which is in line with the consumer needs and meeting the value proposition. And therefore, they see value in your product, and that becomes like a hotcake for consumers to buy and improve your business. So you need to have a good product quality system. But the second is the product is an outcome of processes. So you need to have a good, what should I say, focus on the processes also. And you need to make your processes more visible. You will need to understand what is happening actually within the process. And you will need to understand what is the kind of things which are unwanted also happening in the process. And then you need to have tools to find out a way to take away or reduce those things which are not the desired kind of actions and therefore leading to additional cost. You need to have process quality. In process quality and product quality, you will need to have a build an approach which is for improvement. And in improvement, one principle need to be followed. Always a solution for any problem is elimination. You have problem which is triggered by something, you eliminate that, nothing will be there for you as long because you have eliminated it. But since sometimes elimination is not possible, then we say you reduce it. Or if you're not able to reduce it, you simplify that or you combine or modify that. So these principles need to be applied so that you are starting from elimination, you are coming up to maybe simplification or combination or modification. Either of the options you apply across, you will be able to ensure that variation is brought down and then your product quality improves and the process quality improves. But the third one, which is normally not the forte of businesses in India today, they are not very strong on that because they tend to assume quality is not so much needed in that area. But that is the most vital, and the business will not succeed or become sustainable or resilient unless you are very strong on that. And what is that quality? The quality of your management. The management that you practice in a company led by the top, what are the metrics for quality on that? How do you know whether the quality is emerging in that level? Are the people doing their job in the right manner, which can be said to be quality management? If you do not have that, then you don't know, you don't have data to tell you what is the levels at which you are performing on quality of management and what are the gaps in that, and then how do you correct it? Therefore, in this quality of management, we will need to have some more steps taken. We need to understand what quality management is all about. We need to have the right metrics for that. And we need to create an MIS to start tracking and measuring that and then see whether at what level we are doing that or not doing. But quality management requires two important enablers. Just now I mentioned about metrics. So you need a good performance management system. What is the performance of products, performance of your processes, thereby performance of your assets, performance of your management, and also performance of your supply chain. So we need to have a set of good metrics which are aligned and drilled down from the strategy, from your maybe from the purpose and vision into your activity across yourself and across maybe your supply chain, where you are able to ensure every action is aligned to create an outcome which is meeting your own higher level goals. So you need to have a very robust, well thought out, well designed performance management. But you also need to have one more thing, and that is going to drive the culture. And unless you have a very strong culture, you will not be able to compete. And what is the enabler for the culture? A good governance. And a good governance is one which makes the business accountable, makes the business transparent, and makes the business perform as per law, as per rule, as per norms of the company and its management. So it should also be transparent. It should also be with integrity. So that requires the governance to focus on some obligations which every business has. Obligation one, you have to meet your financial obligations by paying taxes, etc. Second, you need to meet your legal obligations, which are driven by product-related rules or business-related rules, etc. But there are two more obligations which are normally not the focus, and they are very much needed, and they actually drive the culture. Number one, you need to have a very strong system to ensure you are meeting all your ethical obligations, triggered by environment concern, triggered by climate concerns, triggered by any other larger purposes which you have in your business. you need to ensure ethically you are a very strong organization and your working is built on strong foundation of ethics and integrity and business ethics. Last but not the least, you need to also have good systems to ensure our stewardship of our business at any enterprise level or at the lower levels. Your general stewardship is very, very strong. If you are able to create a system like that, then you are able to translate into right kind of behaviors and actions leading to maybe a strong culture. So I would say these are some of the aspects which associated with quality need to be, and therefore the paradigm of quality and the systems and the skills needed in the people who are today involved in the quality fraternity would need to undergo a lot of change.
So I think we have covered a lot of insights from your rich experience, and any concluding remarks you would like to make, sir?
I would like to make a small observation at the end. Observation at the end is that any enterprise, one or some factor which are critical for its success is you need to work for a larger cause and larger purpose. So purpose driven organizations succeed more easily and it is more sustainable. Second, the organizations need to ensure that they at a highest level make a conscious decision. Performance is dynamic. It keeps on slipping if the trends outside are faster than your growth. Therefore, you will need to ensure that you have a very strong improvement culture. Third, I would say that you will need to have visibility about your business in terms of processes, models, but you need to adopt technology, you need to adopt innovation, and you need to, in all these, use the power of people because without people, nothing succeeds. So don't ignore that piece. Take care of them, take care of society, and rest will happen the way you want.
Yeah. So thank you very much, sir. So on behalf of Qualitypedia team, I would like thank you for sharing the rich experience and insights on this topic, and also sparing your time to be with us and giving this valuable information on this. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I thank both of you and thank the entire RSJ management team for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts. And I hope your platform, what you have created, which is aiming to disseminate knowledge, will do more of such work in the coming years. And you would be the platform where everybody is looking to gain new insights, new directions, particularly apparel and textile industry. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.